All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Notary Coach Presents. It is 3 ways wedding officiants can keep themselves booked solid with Mark Allan Groleau. My name is Bill Soroka. I am founder of notarycoach.com. Mark, I'm about to mute you as well. Okay, I'm just going to mute everybody here, and then we're going to take that power away. And we're going to keep everybody on mute except for Mark and myself for right now. All right, let's kick this off and start again. Guys, welcome to 3 ways wedding officiants can keep themselves booked solid. My name is Bill Soroka, founder of notarycoach.com and author of Sign and Thrive, How to Make 6 Figures as a Mobile Notary and Loan Signing Agent. I'm here so excited to introduce you to Mark Allan Groleau, founder of the Unboring Wedding Academy, the Unboring Wedding Officiant himself, and one of the most highly booked wedding officiants in Canada, in North America for that matter. So guys, I know we're all hungry for new opportunities, new lines of service, new lines of revenue right now as our industry pivots and adapts and responds to rising interest rates. The wedding officiant opportunity is huge, and it always has been. And I know so many of you have questions about not just how to perform the actual officiant and be amazing at that, but you have questions about how to actually build a business around that. And that's why I'm so excited to bring Mark Allan Groleau up to the stage. Mark, thank you so much for being here and delivering so much value to us.
Feels a bit like Clubhouse when you say it that way.
What's Clubhouse?
What is Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here. Are you officially giving me the mic, or should we talk about what's happening in the chat, or how are we done?
No, that was a great. Thanks for
I'm
the
eager
reminder.
to get to the content,
but remind me of what to do here. That was perfect. Guys, let me go. I'm going to set expectations for what you can expect on today's call. So first thing, Mark is going to come up, deliver an amazing presentation. You can feel free to interact in the chat, but keep in mind that Mark can't see the chat right now. Only I can. So I'll be monitoring your questions as you have them in there. If one pertains to a point he's bringing up, or he pauses for quick questions, I'll bring those up at that time. Otherwise, we're just going to do a live Q&A at the very end of this call and make sure all of your questions get answered. So put them in the chat if you'd like to, so you don't forget them or I don't forget them, or just save it to the end and you get one-on-one or one-on-many time with Mark to get those questions answered. Also, as we're going through the presentation at the very end, Mark is the founder of the Unboring Wedding Academy. So he's created an incredible offer for you. So if you are interested in pursuing the wedding officiant and the business side of it, he's got a pro course and his academy program. So we're going to talk about that for a brief couple of minutes, and then we'll go into that live Q&A. All right. I think I may have talked about everything, Mark. Are you ready to take the reins?
I think so. I'll just have to share my screen here. You let me know if you can see that okay.
Looks beautiful.
Great. Worked really hard on it, so thank you. Well, thanks a lot, everybody, for being here. It means a lot that you're taking time out of your live Friday. And so I'm just thrilled to do this. I love the notary community because you guys, when you show up for something like this, I know you're ready to officiate. It's in your wheelhouse. It's in the ether. It's something you're thinking of doing. But what might bring you here today is just thinking about how you go from, of course, being a notary and signing documents to that, right? You're like, that might be a bit of a stretch, going from signing stuff to standing up there in front of people all dressed up. And so how do we do that? Well, and part of the hesitation is probably a problem that happens to anybody who's thinking of making a lateral move or diversifying their business, and that is it comes with a risk. You've got a successful notary business, or maybe it's just fledgling and you're just getting started and you're thinking, is it smart to take my eye off the ball? You might be wondering about wasting effort on learning weddings. There is a learning curve, like when we try anything new. You might be thinking about wasting time building the messaging, basically physically putting your stuff on your website or on Google My Business or whatever it is. You're thinking, how do I pivot my language? I know what to say to people who need a notary. I know how to have the notary hat on, but what do I do for weddings? And of course, then you might be thinking about wasting money on opportunity cost. I would say what I mean by opportunity cost is, I would say launching your business is not going to cost you a lot in terms of pivoting to weddings, but anytime you have your eye on another ball, you might be thinking, man, I could be just signing and making money. So I understand all the risk. And the solution, of course, to that is to have 3 client pipelines for weddings flowing freely, just firing at you all the time. That is one thing. In the 6 years since I started Unboring Wedding and went off on my own, highly discouraged by people around me, especially the company that I work for. Mark, it's tough out there. I don't think you're going to make it. It's really risky. As I got going and I realized, as one pipeline started flowing, another part started flowing, and another started flowing, I was not wanting for clients at all. So the first pipeline, I'm just going to tell you what those pipelines are off the bat. I'm not going to keep you in too much suspense. The first thing you want firing is the cold leads, and that is basically where a couple they just got engaged and they turn to the internet and they Google wedding officiants Baltimore. And once you get that pipeline flowing of when cold couples are looking on the internet for an officiant, because a lot of time, a lot of couples, it's their first rodeo. They don't know where to look. They don't go to church. They don't have a clergy person. They don't want to go to the courthouse. You want to be there on the internet search. Once you get that going, you're looking pretty good. The other warm lead would be more of a word of mouth. So when you do a wedding, somebody refers, or you have friends who are referring you, word of mouth is more of a warm. Some trusted individual tells this couple, this person getting married, oh, I've got a name for you. That is another pipeline you want flowing. And the third thing you want to get flowing is, my slides are a bit stuck here, so suspense. More hot leads. And I would say the hottest lead is vendor referrals. You might think, well, this is debatable. What if like a trusted family member says, I have a referral for you? I would still say that's like very subjective, but when a wedding planner or a wedding venue says, we have had this officiant in-house and they blew everybody away, that is the hottest lead you can get. I've had couples just reach out to me and say, Kate, the wedding planner suggested you send me the booking link, and I do discourage that. I encourage meeting every couple you're going to potentially book. We'll get there. But these are the 3 pipelines that you want totally flowing freely. So here's the question. The $1 million question: how do you get all 3 pipelines flowing and be a booked up officiant? That's what I want to cover today. 40 minutes or so of teaching here, of talking with you and sharing what I've done over the last 6 years and how I got to the place where I'm booked solid 2022, 2023, and I'm booking into 2024. How does that happen? The 3 pipelines, okay? So here's what you got to be to have all those pipelines flowing. It's not just going to be, magic fairy dust. You have to exhibit 3 qualities, 3 features to be a booked up officiant. And that is essentially the teeth, the actionable items I want you to be able to leave here today saying, I can do this. I can start cultivating myself, my officiating practice, my chops to be a booked up officiant and get these 3 going. First of all, wow factor performance. You have to perform a ceremony in such a way that is better than average. I might say this a few times today, but I am in wedding officiant Facebook groups and other communities where people are having such a hard time getting traction. And so I'm going to put that out there and just say there's a lot of officiants who are kind of in this middling zone where they're just like, and they go down in price. I'm charging 200, I'm charging 150. I still can't get clients. I would say that is the problem. Performance is what sets you apart and makes people want to work with you and clamoring for your business. So you need wow factor performance just in the sense of officiating a wedding, doing the actual work of that. The other thing you need is a wow factor process. So we're going to talk about processes that you can have in place that kind of like an assembly line. As a notary, you probably know this. You have a process when somebody says, I need a thing signed. You know the process to take them through. You have a way to do it. Same thing with officiating a wedding or meeting with a client who's engaged. We'll talk about that. And the third thing that should say is wow factor promotability. That's a word I made up, but the promoting of yourself, the getting the word out about you, how you present yourself, that also is a huge part of the wow factor. We could use the word brand there. So performance, process, and promotability. So today we're going to cover, like I said, in this 35-ish, 8 minutes, how to get all three pipelines flowing because you took the time and you're taking the time in the weeks and months to follow to cultivate those wow factor features in your wedding service, okay? So before we get into it, what does wow factor mean? Let's define that because I used it 3 times in every category. By wow factor, I just mean these 3 things. You easily solve a couple's problem. And basically when we're in business, we are just solving a problem, right? A leaky pipe, a document that needs to be signed, a couple that needs to get met, whatever it is. When you come to the marketplace, you're saying, I solve a problem. Wow factor is when you make it easy. I don't know if you've called a service where you had a problem and it's convoluted and the pricing isn't clear and you're not sure about it. You hang up the phone or you walk away, you back out of that website and say, I don't know what I just saw, but I don't think I get it. So can you easily solve a couple's problem? If so, they're going to be wowed. They're going to feel like this person knows what I want and they get me. Another thing you got to do is clearly demonstrate your skills. Showcase that you know what to do and how to do it. That's really important for couples looking for an officiant. An officiant is such a public thing, at least for a wedding. If you're doing a signing, that's a different thing, but you want to demonstrate your skill so that they have confidence, faith, and trust in you. And the third thing is that you can consistently exceed all expectations. Like I said, if you're struggling in the middling zone of wedding officiants who are all charging $200 to $300 and you're just waiting for the phone to ring, but it's a glutted market, there is a way to easily break out of that. I got to say it because I started my business in Toronto and right away rose above that where everybody around me was saying, this is a tough business. How do you get bookings? I don't know how to do it. Couples call me, they leave me hanging, they ghost me. That is about branding and presenting yourself and consistently exceeding all expectations. Let me show you the result of that. When you easily solve couples' problems, that gets inquiries. So when somebody lands on your website or gets a sense from what they see on the computer, like I say, Google My Business or a website that you're on, that will get an inquiry. They will reach out to you and say, hey, are you available? That doesn't guarantee the booking. That gets you somebody reaching out and saying, I'm interested. Tell me more. Let's see how you respond when I ask if you're available. Then, of course, when you clearly demonstrate your skill, if you reply to that with a well-worded email and or conversation with them, that will get you the booking. So the inquiry is the first step, obviously, and they may have asked several officiants. You know, in my experience, I've had couples say, okay, thank you for talking to us. We're in talks with a couple other officiants, and you feel that panic, like, oh no, do I measure up? Or they're talking to other officiants. Well, when you clearly demonstrate that you're pretty sure you're amazing and you can solve their problem and you know what you're doing, that is more likely to get you the booking. And I'll talk to you about exactly how to do that on this call. Okay. And consistently exceeding all expectations, this is the one after the fact, after you've done the job. This is what gets you really that golden goose of referrals. And that just keeps laying the eggs. That's enough of that analogy. But you know what I'm saying. It just keeps coming. So when you easily solve a couple's problem, you're going to get inquiries. When you clearly demonstrate you know what you're doing, you're in control of the process and how you work, they'll be like, okay, let's book. Then once you do the job and blow everybody away, that's where the referrals will come in. And I'll just say this as an aside now. You will likely get to the point, and you could do this within 12 calendar months, I would say, of being able to charge, like I do, upwards of $1,000, $1,200, $1,300 for a wedding ceremony. When you know how to put that together really well, that takes about 10 hours, including meeting with them, talking with them, rehearsal, all the stuff. So, think about if you did a wedding every weekend for $1,000-ish, that's $4,000 a month for 10 hours a week or less. That's the kind of place where we're talking about getting to. And that's where once you have those 3 pipelines firing, you don't need to be casting about trying to get couples dancing on TikTok, trying to get people's attention, right? You will have people coming to you, and that's a really great feeling. So you can focus on building and exceeding expectations. So let's get into it. I want to tackle these one at a time over the next session here. So the 3 features again are wow factor: performance, process, and promotability. We're going to take each of those and I'll break them down into bite-sized parts of what I mean and how you can execute on each of these things. So before I jump in, I'm going to take a breath. Bill, what's going on? Are people still on this call?
We've got a few that have hung around, Mark. No, actually, I'm so impressed. We almost have 200 people on the call. I see lots of nodding heads and smiles, Mark. I think we're just excited to get in and hear more about the wow factors.
Good. Okay. I can see faces, which is nice. I just don't know what people are saying, but maybe it's just no news is good news. Any questions or should I just proceed?
Yeah, I think we're good to go.
Okay, great. So let's tackle the first one. How do you do the wow factor performance? What does that mean exactly? Here's the breakdown. And as notaries, you're used to signing stuff, wham, bam. And I know in the States and in the notary community, a lot of people they just need to get married for the military, or they just need to get married for legal purposes ASAP because of some real estate deal going through or something. And that's fine. So here's the 3 kinds of wedding services you can provide when you hang your shingle out there as a notary and say, I do weddings. The first one is, like I said, signings. Probably don't need to go into that. You guys know what to do there. You would just need to get in contact with your local judiciary, the jurisdiction that handles weddings, find out what you need to do. I know in several states it's legal to officiate, but I will say this. Even if you can't technically officiate weddings as a notary where you are from, that does not matter at all. And this was a big thing in Montana when I went there. This is why it's great to talk to notaries. Several notaries there said, I'd love to officiate, but it's not legal in my state. Go online to Universal Life Church or American Marriage Ministries, get your online ordination in like 5 minutes. And guess what? I think in like 48 of the states or something like that, you are now legal. Couples don't care how you are legal, they just care that you are legal. So when you don't need to say, oh, I can't as a notary, but I can as a minister. Couples are going to start phoning you because they think you can officiate. And you don't need to explain to them, oh, in our state, notaries. Nope, just say, great, I can do it. And all you would do then is on the license, you would write your clergy number that you get when you get that online ordination. So it is most likely possible for you to do this legally. If that was a stopper for you, don't leave the call because we just blew that one apart. You can be clergy, but still put this as part of your notary services, okay? Second thing is elopement. So I would call this short, really quick ceremonies that are a bit more than a signing, where you just meet somebody at a Starbucks and sign the papers, and you need to find out what you can and must legally do in your state. In some states, they need to say certain things, but I've literally met people at a coffee shop, especially when the couple has forgotten their marriage license at the rehearsal and on the wedding day. I literally have to meet them at a coffee shop a few days later, and in Ontario, I had to ask them, like, we're just sitting there sipping lattes, and I say, "Do you promise to be faithful?" and all that. So just real quick, and then we sign. In some states, you don't have to say anything. I'm in New Brunswick now. You don't have to say anything. You just literally sign a paper. But an elopement is typically a smaller ceremony where you stand under a tree or something with friends and family, or in their apartment, or at a city park, and you just do a little ceremony. Usually no chairs, just gather around, get these two married, and sign the papers. So that's an elopement. Okay. And again, pandemic elopements obviously really became popular because it was just like your bubble meeting in a park, real quick 5-minute ceremony. That's what a lot of officiants were doing when COVID was at its peak. The third thing is Lux ceremonies. And this is what you think of when you get a wedding invitation that's embossed in gold and you have to go, to Pottery Barn and buy a gift. I mean, that is like the Lux wedding ceremony. Okay. So those are the three kinds of
Good. It's not just me. Hey, Mark, I think we lost you. We'll pause for just a moment, guys. Sorry about that. Beautiful. Let's just pause for 1 second, guys. We'll give Mark a chance to jump back online. What do you guys think so far in the chat? 1, if you're finding value in this. 2, if you've got some questions. Awesome. And I'm sure you'll have some questions too later on, but Mark's really great about answering all of these questions. Oh, Mark is back. All right, good. There he is.
Did I get bounced? Did a bunch of us get bounced? Was that just me?
That was just you.
Oh my God.
Wasn't us. It was just you.
I'm hardwired here, so I don't know what happened. That's
All right,
not a good. That's not a good sign for New Brunswick internet or whatever. Yeah, no.
I was gonna make a Canadian joke there, but I didn't do it.
It's pretty remote up here.
Hey, well, while you were gone, I asked if this was landing and people were seeing value in that. We got tons of great comments in the chat.
Okay,
so
good.
you're nailing it. All
Good.
yours.
Okay, I apologize in advance if that happens again. Thanks for having me back, Bill. So
Session
really,
2.
one is the one that has really no limit, no ceiling. Every single year, I have been increasing my prices as I get busier. And I'm also, of course, trying to run this other whole side of the business where I'm training officiants and building this global team of unboring wedding pros. So the Lux ceremony, though, is the one where, because you are providing an experience, you can charge whatever you want. Like, think about how couples are paying $1,000 for a deli tray, right? You can go to the grocery store today and get a $30 deli tray. But at a wedding, couples are paying $1,000 for a deli tray. So this is an example of the couples can hire an officiant, or they can hire an officiant that blows people away and provides an incredible experience that's on par with the rest of the wedding day, and how they are really seeking to wow their guests. So this is what I'm saying. Lux ceremonies are an experience that you are providing. Couples who are getting married want to provide an experience for their guests, everything from a signature cocktail to the DJ. And so a great officiant complements all that, which means they'll spare no expense, to be honest. And so this is what I'm going to say is train for a Lux ceremony. Remember those three kinds: signing, elopement, and Lux? If you just say, all I know how to do are signings and elopements, and I don't really bother really taking seriously the incredible experience, well, then you're just going to bounce on those two. And you can only charge a certain level for a signing because there's somebody down the road who's going to charge less. You can only charge a certain amount for an elopement because you're standing there, wham bam, vows. You might say something really nice, but at a certain point, it's like, well, okay, but everybody's sort of middle of the pack. It's the luck ceremony where you can blow people away, which removes the ceiling for what a couple will pay. So here's the wow factor performance, the three parts that I want to talk about for a luck ceremony. First of all, you understand the 10 parts of a traditional ceremony. So if you're coming to this and you're like, weddings scare me, I just want to say real quick, understand the 10 parts of a ceremony and let's just take the scare out of weddings, okay? Also, the 21st century now, you don't have to do it a certain way. It's pretty awesome. There's no shoulds. Second thing is plan the ceremony with your couple, and the third is write and tell their love story. So real quick, the 10 parts of a traditional wedding ceremony. I always do this. If you heard me do this before, it's because I'm trying to demystify weddings, okay? First thing I always do is get up there, make some opening remarks, get everybody excited, talk to the guests, get everybody cheering. Most officiants don't do this. Sadly, I'm trying to change the world, one unboring wedding pro at a time, and they're out there now. But when many weddings you've been to, likely, the processional happens, then the officiant welcomes everyone and just says, dearly beloved and all that. I go up ahead of time, sometimes with, if it's a groom and the party, welcome everybody, turn off your phones. Yeah, no photos, please. Okay, take another couple photos of the groom. He cleaned up real nice today. Okay, now put them away. Are you ready to get these two hitched? Great. So that's fun. You break the ice. Second thing is then the processional happens. Everybody walks in. Third is the officiant speech. That's where you talk for 5 to 10 minutes, say something about love, marriage. Of course, I talk about tell the love story. That way you don't have to make up a bunch of fluff. Fourth is the vows or the declaration of intent. So declaration of intent is you might need to legally make them say, I come here of a sound mind, etc. That's where you do that. The exchange of rings happens as a sign of the vows. Then you pronounce them married or wife and wife or however they want to be said. Then you sign the license. So in Canada, I know in the States this is like, what? Because you've never seen that. In Canada, we do it right in the ceremony, and I'm trying to single-handedly again export this to the States because it's so fun, and a lot of unboring wedding pros are doing this, even first-timers. And when you play a fun song like Bob Marley, One Love, or right there in the ceremony, there's a little table, everybody starts, getting their lighters out. It's a fun little intermission before the end. Then we come back to the center. We face the aisle. The couple are facing the aisle now as opposed to each other. You give some quick closing remarks of what the couple's doing next, typically heading out for photos. They'll rejoin us. In the meantime, it's cocktail hour. There'll be drinks. There'll be hors d'oeuvres. The open bar is open. Have a wonderful evening. Are you ready to celebrate? Stand with us now. And this is where I present to you that for the very first time, and you present them as married, Mr. and Mr. So-and-so, bang, big song comes on, and out they go. That's the recessional. 95% of my ceremonies look just like that. Don't add anything else. So you might think, oh, well, Mark, you probably add a whole bunch of stuff. No. Most couples don't want any rituals. Most couples don't even want prayers or blessings or anything like that. They just want that experience. So you don't have to be fancy bells and whistles and throwing all kinds of stuff in. Quantity in a wedding ceremony is not where it's at. It's in quality. And I would focus on number 3 for that. The officiant speech is the moneymaker. When you provide that incredible experience, and I would argue also engaging with the guests, like very few officiants do. It's not a stand-up comedy routine, but you're talking to the guest at choice moments throughout the ceremony. That's how this happens, okay? So that's the first thing, is you have your 10-part ceremony. You understand the outline the way I gave it to you. The second thing to do is plan the ceremony with your couple. Why am I seeing a red scribble on the screen? That's interesting.
I know somebody scribbled and I don't know how to delete it. Sorry.
That's awesome.
No scribbling.
Okay, as long as that one wasn't Canada's fault. Okay.
I'm gonna have to take responsibility for that.
Okay. So next thing you want to do now that you have that outline is plan it with your couple. Okay. Here's what that looks like. 4 to 6 weeks before the day, you have an in-person 1 hour meeting with them. Every couple that I book, I say, let's sit down. I want to walk through the planning session. I want to take you through all the options from the opening remarks to whether or not you can take pictures to what music is playing to how we're walking in to how do you want to say your vows. Is it write and read your own, repeat after me? Do you want to just say I do? So once you understand the 10 parts of a ceremony, you can sit down with them, walk them through that, and make sure they put in all the input. So you walk them through the 10-part outline. I literally wrote a book about this whole process called Wedding Zero to Ceremony Hero. I go in with a spreadsheet that I teach inside Unboring Wedding Academy, and right on my laptop, and I'm just filling that all out. And then of course you ask them if they want to add anything to the 10 parts. You don't want to restrict a couple, especially if this is a luxe ceremony. They might want a candle lighting. They might want to do a hand fasting. They might want to do a sand mixing, those kind of rituals. They might want grandma to come up and say a prayer. That's great. So you need to say, I want this to be everything you want it to be. So let's talk about anything you want to add. A lot of time, and to this day, I've been doing this 10 years, I'll still get a couple who saw something on TikTok that's cool and I've never heard of it. And they'll say, can we add a whatever? Maybe it's part of their ethnic heritage that you haven't heard of it. That's totally fine. This is not a, oh my gosh, if I don't know the thing that they want to add to their ceremony, this totally undermines my professionalism or my experience. No, I still hear that and I go, okay, we'll sure as heck add that. I just got to go find out what it is and how to do it. And that's where, of course, the internet is your best friend. So don't worry about them adding some strange ritual or tradition that you've never heard of. They're the boss, so you tell them we're sure as heck going to add that. I'll just go find out what it is. And then, of course, you create the script and send it to them to sign off on. Write and tell their love story is the other big one. So you understand the 10-part outline. You sit down and plan the ceremony with them. Write and tell their love story. Like I say, this is what got me to the top in the Toronto market, made me want to leave and find a quieter life by the ocean in New Brunswick and get booked solid here as well, because people love not just having their story told, but their story told to all the guests, friends, family. I mean, vendors come out of the woodwork. The caterers want to hear the love story because it's so fun and entertaining. Like I say, this is how you rise to the top. So I just went back there. Here's how you do that, okay? You don't just say, like I did when I started, tell me some cool things about you. You're going to get everything in the kitchen sink. You're going to not know what's relevant. Only ask them 3 questions. Every love story I tell is a 3-act love story. And it's got all that intrigue and tension. I mean, obviously we know how the story ends because they're standing here getting married, but it's like a movie that starts with a flashback. The main character's dying. Great. Now the next hour and a half, we're going to talk to you about how they got shot. This is a happier analogy than that. But we know the ending. That doesn't matter. Send them the 3 questions. How did they meet? What was the first impression? That's the first question. Second thing is, tell me about the first date or the first dates, because some couples don't agree on what their first date was. She says it's when he took her out and finally paid for dinner. He thinks it's the night they met at McDonald's. So it's fun to hear the different ideas about what the first date was and how it went. The third question I ask is, tell me about the proposal, how it went down. It's always fraught with drama and things going off the rails, and that's it. You tell that story. Here's how they met. They saw each other across the smoky bar, and then they go on a date together, and here's all the ways it was awkward and beautiful and uncomfortable and romantic. And then the proposal and the gong show, and it didn't go as planned, but he said yes, and here we are. That is the love story you want to tell. That is how you consistently deliver the same product every time. I can honestly say this after 6 years of giving this same survey out, that I'm surprised. Every single couple has a story that fits those. Even if they say, well, the proposal wasn't all that great, they'll still tell you what happened, and you can always write that 3-act love story. Okay, write to talk for about 10 minutes. So You don't need to write for any more than that. You don't need to talk for any more than that. I don't know any single wedding crowd that ever said, I wish that ceremony had been longer. So, 10 minutes is good. Leave them wanting more. I usually throw in what the couple loves about each other. I ask them that. I do a little survey about what people love about them, and I read that. That takes 3 to 4 minutes. So I talk for about 13 minutes usually, but I can't go over that because I do notice, even though, I'm blowing people away, people are laughing and crying, there is a sense of like, okay, it's like a Lord of the Rings movie. This is good, but my bum's sore because it's 3 hours. So no matter how great something is, there is a time limit to what you can do. So I would say 12, 13 minutes of a monologue, anything more than that, and it's turning into the efficient show and everybody's getting uncomfortable. The other thing I get asked a lot, do you show your couple the story? I show my couple the script. So coming out of that meeting we talked about, I always build the script and send it to them. I want them to sign off on all the elements and everything I'm going to say in there, but I don't show them the story. It's so much more fun when they're hearing it for the first time along with all their guests, and it's just a real blast. Now they're the boss. I give them the option to say if you want to see it, you can, but thankfully no couple has done that. They want to keep it a surprise. So I would recommend, if you can, keep the story a surprise, but definitely show your couple the rest of the script. So I have a script that I send the couple that doesn't have the story. Then the day before the wedding, I create a master copy, plug their story in, and that's the one that I take into the wedding. That's part one. That was the wow factor performance. That is how you blow couples, their guests, the vendors who are in the room away. That is the secret sauce for that. Now I'm going to stop for a moment and be thankful we still have internet. Any questions? Anything you're seeing, Bill?
There's a few questions, but I think they're perfect for the live Q&A later.
Okay, great. Okay. But there's no confusion, just questions. Questions, not confusion. That's good.
That's what it looks like.
All right, so let's talk about the process then. The process that you're going to have to do. Wow factor process. There's two processes you got to think of when you're a wedding officiant. The first one is your ceremony building process. The steps that I just described, putting together an incredible jaw-dropping, face-melting wedding ceremony. What's the process for that? And the other thing you got to think about is the client life cycle process. This is where you'll be familiar as a notary, especially a busy notary. You're not inventing the wheel for every client. You know the steps to take them through to get them to the point where that document is signed and they're out the door happy. So it's the same thing with a wedding. Okay, so let's tackle the first one. Here's the ceremony building process that I do with every single couple. It's what I teach every unborn wedding officiant. 4 to 6 weeks before, like I said, this is where you have that planning session. So even if they booked me, like couples are doing now for 2024, that's on my calendar, June 16th, 2024. I say, have a great couple years. I will reach out to you 3 months before. We will get a meeting on the calendar for 4 to 6 weeks before. That's when you sit down with them. Earlier than that, it's just too early. They don't know anything. Later than that, you're panicking, okay? Because there are going to be some things you hit them with that they need to think about or talk about. So 4 to 6 weeks is perfect. But coming out of that meeting, within 24 hours, and again, sometimes still at the table at Tim Hortons when they leave, I create the script right there. I take all the information and just start plugging it into my script template and then send them their script and the 3 questions. Remember what they are? How did you meet? What were your first impressions of each other? What was the first date like? What was the proposal like? I send them that in a Google form, and they have about a month to get those answers back to me. Okay, so they have their script right away. Do you notice it's theirs? It's on a Google Doc. I shared it with them. They can sign off on it. They can share it with other people, their planner, and they're getting that survey done. 2 weeks before is when I start to really write their story. The story writing takes 5 hours or so, 5 like writing sessions, just to keep it easy. And that's where you're writing their story. 1 day before is where we do the rehearsal, and that's where I'm putting the finishing touches on the script. Sometimes in the rehearsal, stuff needs to be changed. And so I always recommend building a rehearsal into the performance. It'll make you feel better. It'll make them feel better. Anybody who has anxiety, just build it right in. It'll just make you so much happier. I never do a wedding without a rehearsal. And then one day before, that's the same day here, is you're creating that master copy. So come out of the rehearsal, do what I said there, make the tweaks on the script, the working copy of the script, make a copy, plunk the story in because you don't want them to see it unless they wanted to. And then that's the copy that you carry into the wedding ceremony itself on the wedding day, and you just read that baby. That's the great thing about being an officiant, is you're not Tony Robbins walking up and down. You're not a motivational speaker. You stand there and read, more like an author or a politician reading a teleprompter really well. That's the kind of poise and presence you want. So it's like an author doing a book reading when you're an officiant, more so than, a really dynamic TED Talk speaker who's stalking up and down the stage. That is the process of creating a ceremony. I'll just go back. That is the process of creating that and crafting that perfect ceremony. Now, when a couple comes to you, here is the process you bring them through. Let's kind of switch to the client's hat and say, if they were to ask you, what's it like? How do you write my story and get to my wedding day? Here it is. The first thing, when I get an inquiry, I say, let's sit down for a chemistry check. Either on Zoom or, like I like to do it at my local coffee shop. The couple comes to me, pick somewhere close to you. You don't need to be zigzagging all over the city. I did see some people in the chat here from like LA or that kind of. You don't want to be driving around town meeting couples. Tell them, I love meeting couples at the such and such First and Main Starbucks. Meet me there, set a time, and just sit down and have a chat with them, okay? Say, I want to meet, I want to talk to you, let's meet up. I like to have chemistry with every couple that I book. Again, for elopements and signings, maybe this is not as important, but for a Lux ceremony where guests are going to be feeling it, you're writing their love story. Every couple tells me after their wedding, their guests think I'm a friend. And I think a huge part of that is because I sit down with them in the chemistry check, we have that meeting, that's the second time, and then we have the rehearsal. So I've seen them for a few hours by that point, and we've just had this rapport and we have a lot of fun. Second thing is, I get asked a lot, when do I do the payment thing? Take the 50% retainer right up front. So if your fee is $600, say, I need $300, non-refundable, that saves you the date. COVID taught wedding officiants a really hard lesson about language around what this means, because when weddings all got canceled, couples were starting to come out of the woodwork to, officiants who felt pretty good about themselves and said, look, I got the next 6 months booked. Well, when they all wanted refunds, that's an overnight bankruptcy. How do you pay back all those couples? So make sure you say non-refundable retainer or booking fee, and then it's communicated. Like, you're paying to hold the date. It's not like you're paying me to officiate the wedding, and then if you need to cancel, you get it back, okay? So do that right away. To lock in the date, they pay you, and then they're locked in and you know where you stand. That, to me, is also when you give them the contract. They need to sign the contract to lock it in and understand the terms. Then you schedule and conduct your planning session 4 to 6 weeks before. You tell the couple, we got to meet again. I'm going to send you the script and the survey within 24 hours, typically. 2 weeks before, that's my timing. I recommend it. 2 weeks before, collect the remaining 50%. Never do a wedding where you're not paid. I've literally had vendors tell me, big, important, fancy vending vendors in the area like gardens and barns, say, the couple still hasn't paid yet. And then we meet again 3 weeks later, say, remember that couple? They still haven't paid yet. So as an officiant, you want to make sure you get paid before you go out there and do the ceremony. Otherwise, you might be waiting a long time for your money. Then you do the rehearsal night before, typically 2 nights before, when most people can get there. And then, of course, the wedding ceremony, you show up 45 minutes before on the wedding day, run through a checklist of all the things that need to happen, and you officiate the wedding. Another question I get asked a lot, Mark, do you stay after? And the couple asks that sometimes, and I say, no, I graciously bow out. I don't wedding crash. The DJ needs to be fed. The photographer needs to be fed. They need to stay there. But as the officiant, typically I just head off into the sunset right after the ceremony. I find the couple, give them a hug, tell them I'll email them, and then head out. That is the client life cycle process. So when you're clear on the process of building the ceremony, and then you're clear on the process of what do you need from your clients when, and you can present this to them, it's very clear. And again, they're going to be wowed. I can't tell you how many times I have heard, or people in the unboring wedding community have heard, people are blown away when you can present a process to them clearly and succinctly without any confusion. Again, if they're shopping around for other officiants and you're the one who says, here's what I need from you and here's when I need it, guess who there is going to stand out in their mind, right? So that's how you do your wow factor processing. Another breather. We got one more to go. Bill, how we doing?
Doing good, doing good. Lots of nodding heads and notes being taken. Oh, and we lost you. Perfect time to pause for just a moment with the Mark's internet connectivity. Guys, if you have any questions at all, you can type those into the chat. I'm keeping a collection of those, but we're going to hit Q&A here in just a moment here. Yeah, oh, Canada, exactly, Jennifer. I'll have to tease him about that too. Awesome, Tiffany. I'm so glad that you are enjoying this. Mark really does an incredible job, and I don't know, I'll probably share this too in an email before Mark gets back too, but my mother has taken the Unboring Wedding Officiant course to help her prepare for a wedding that she did for my cousin. And I was with her. I was at the wedding, of course, and I cannot believe how many people were walking up just saying that was the best wedding I've ever seen. I can't believe that. How'd you learn to do that? So it's really a powerful lesson that we're learning here. Mark, is that you?
Yeah, I'm back.
Right, welcome back.
New Brunswick. This has never happened. I do lives every Monday, maybe because it's Friday. I don't know. Thank you for your patience.
Sure.
All right. So was there any questions, or we want to tackle this third one?
No, we're ready. Let's hit it.
All right. So here's the promotability factor. Once you have your ceremony building down, you know the process that you create and bring your clients through. It's time for wow factor promotabilities. The number one thing you need to go after right away is reviews and photos. Why do you think the wall behind me is festooned with photos, or unboringwedding.com, my website, has photos all over the place, as many as I can put? Because when clients see that, they identify with it and they say, okay, this is somebody who has done this for others, and I want to be that couple. I want to be having that same experience. So right away, go after reviews. So you talk to your couple, you list yourself online. That's another big thing we need to do. And you prep your chemistry check or your pitch, okay? So let's talk about reviews and photos in more detail. Again, after every wedding, reach out to the photographer for those photos. So you reach out to them. If you don't know their contact info, reach out to your couple. But I would say at the wedding, it's a great idea to talk to the photographer. So when I was starting out and when I was starting over in New Brunswick, I would go to the photographer and say, they're usually busy and working, so you don't want to harass them too much. Say, you're on Instagram, can I follow you? You probably don't have a card right now, but sometimes they have a breather, and it's worth just saying, I really want your contact info, and just kind of as a networking thing. But after the wedding, you can reach out to them and say, I loved working with you. Do you have any photos of me in action? I would love to share them. Always credit them. Photographers have different policies around sharing their photos because they always hold the rights to every photo they take. It has nothing to do with their subject. They hold the copyright to every photo. That's something you need to know. That's just an industry thing. So you can ask your couple, can I have a photo? And then you start sharing, and then you hear from the photographer who says, whoa, that's my photo. So you need to actually ask the photographer. In my contract, couples already sign away the image rights. So I put that right in my contract. So I don't have to go cap in hand to every couple and say, can I share this picture of you two? They already signed in the contract that it's okay for me to share any media from their wedding. But the photographer is on with the copyright. So reach out to them and say, Do you have a great photo of me in action? I'm very specific. I say one of the couple laughing because that's just the vibe I want to give. And typically they provide it. And then, of course, I always credit them. On my website, you can see their names are right under every photo. On social, you tag them. That's very important. But photos are going to help you get bookings faster. And then, of course, you reach out to the couple for a review and say, can you leave me a review, maybe on Facebook, maybe on Google? I use a service called Nice Job where it aggregates. It's sometimes nice to have a third party, but if you're just starting out, all I did when I was starting out is the couple would review me and I would just paste that onto my website on a reviews page, and say their name and the date that I officiated. So however you want to do it, reviews and photos are the gold. That is what's going to get other couples to say, oh my gosh, this person's really great. The second thing you got to do once you have those things starting to get in order is you list yourself online as a wedding officiant. The most successful notaries who are inside the Unboring Wedding community have their own wedding officiant page. Again, couples don't care how you do it. Clergy, notary, they just want to know you can officiate their wedding and you're great. So I say this because I know you have an option. If you have a notary website, you might want to put a tab on your website of like, I also do weddings. That might be a good start out of the gate, but I still recommend start building a wedding officiant website. That's what comes up in Google. That's the one you want to be sharing on your card. When you start to promote yourself as a wedding industry professional, over and above a notary who also does weddings, that again will get you having some faster traction. And I can say that because there's a lot of notaries inside Unboring Wedding who are doing that. They list themselves as a fully bona fide wedding vendor who is also a notary. So couples who find you, that's what they're looking for. Huge thing. If you haven't done this for your notary business, I'm sure Bill bangs away on this. You got to do it as a wedding officiant. Get on Google My Business. And if your name is Sally Smith Notary, get a Sally Smith wedding officiating profile as well. You want, when people are Googling officiant, you want that to come up. So that is really important. That is key. That will rocket you to the top. As opposed to waiting for a website to slowly make its way up in the SEO, competing with others. Google My Business is more local, right? So I don't need to explain all the workings of it, but just get a Google My Business for wedding profile. And when couples Google you locally, you're more likely to come up quicker. And that's the link you send people when you're asking them to review how did I do in your wedding? You can send them your Google My Business review link, and that's really highly respected when it's a third-party review like that. And like I say, start building your website. It might take a little while. You might feel intimidated. I do sell a template, a DIY wedding website, where even if you don't have any reviews or photos, you do want to present your packages, a photo of you. This is about putting your foot forward and saying, I'm a wedding professional. I'm in the industry, and you can inquire here. A website is just a great asset to have in the wedding industry. I know it's debated in other industries. Do you need a website with Instagram anymore and that? I would say a website really goes a long way for your credibility, especially again, as couples are deciding between wedding officiants. Your website is where you can showcase what you do, write, and present yourself the way you want to be presented. Okay. And the third thing here is prep your chemistry check, which I call a pitch. It is a pitch. So remember that chemistry check we talked about where couples inquire, you say, let's meet up. You sit down with them at your local Starbucks at First and Main. This is how you conduct that meeting. And I have a 99% close rate, and I teach this. You want to sit down and essentially close the couple. Yes, it's a chemistry check. You're deciding if you want to work with each other. So if you've gotten to this point, they clearly like you. They like what they've seen on the internet. They like how you responded in your email. You want to run this meeting really well, but you don't want it to feel like an awkward first date. What are we going to talk about? Oh, what if they're not chatty? That's happened to me. The couple sits there and they're quiet and they're introverted and they're looking at you with saucer eyes. So you got to be kind of in control of this meeting. Here's how you want to do it. First question I ask, we get our coffee, sit down. Congrats, you're getting married. Tell me about your wedding day. What are you thinking? Give me the vision. And they typically will love telling you about it. It's a barn wedding. We got about 100 people coming. I always ask them, what vendors have you booked? Oh, there's this great DJ we love. Maybe you've worked with them, that kind of thing. Get them talking about the wedding day. That's really what you're here to talk about. And couples will, chances are, love talking about their vision, what they're hoping for. Second thing is, ask them if they want to ask you any questions. So once they do that, I say, all right, so did you come here with any questions? Sometimes brides have a bridal binder and it says questions to ask your officiant. Don't be intimidated by that. You're ready. So over the years, I've kind of headed that off at the past and said, you can ask me any questions you want, pepper me away, nothing's out of bounds, within reason. Or do you want to hear my spiel? I have a spiel, the process, and this is the pitch, okay? And so you make your pitch. Something happened in the Canva rendering here. Sorry about that. You make your pitch, and guess what the pitch is? The pitch is that client process we talked about in that previous slide. So the way I explained it to you is literally that's what you're explaining to them. You say, well, to book me, it's a 50% non-refundable retainer. So my fee is $600. I need $300 right up front to book me. Yes, I'm going to say as an aside to you, lead with your price. When I was a rookie, sometimes we get through this whole meeting and then they would say, so how much are you anyway? This only happened a handful of times, but I would say like, oh, $800. And they'd be like, oh my gosh, what? No, that's way beyond our, oh, sorry about that. It was nice meeting you. And then you just realize you blew like 35 minutes of your time. You were wasting everybody's time. So make sure they know right off the bat so that if that's too much for them, they're going to just end the meeting right there. First thing. So you say, I want 50% non-refundable. Then the next time we're going to meet is 4 to 6 weeks before the day. We're going to have the planning session. Then I'm going to send you your script in Google Docs. Again, you just take them through your process. That is what the pitch is. And when you have that wow factor process, they're going to be like, this person knows what they're doing. And this is the cleanest, most efficient presentation of the process of anybody we've talked to. So be ready to pitch yourself, and it's just your process. Then once you're done that, I usually say, phew, okay, any questions? And they usually say, you anticipated every question, but they might have some things to ask you, which is great. Get it all on the table. And then this is call to action. You always learn, if you've taken any marketing courses, right? Do not leave any session like this without a call to action. So I ask them, okay, so have you made a decision? And sometimes they say we need to talk about it, or sometimes they look at each other and go, yeah, no, we want to work with you. So don't leave the meeting by saying, have you made a decision? If they say no, then you say, okay, great. Well, I will reach back out to you. I always send a follow-up email if they needed a day or two. Sometimes I send them a sample of my work, a script, just to say, I loved meeting you, but follow up. But in the meeting, just say, have you made a decision? Might be yes. If not, I will follow up with you. Okay. So once you get your promotability down with those photos, with knowing the chemistry check, and you're online, let's review, because I'm wrapping up here. Do we have all 3 client pipelines after we have all those things in place? We're on the internet. We're on Google My Business with photos and reviews. Cold internet search, check. Word of mouth, when you blow people away with a performance, a wow factor performance, you have guests and couples saying, oh my gosh, you have got to get this person to officiate your wedding. And typically, every time you do a 100-person ceremony, there's people in the friends and family group who are getting married or know somebody who's getting married. I literally have cards, business cards in my suit pocket for after the ceremony because people come up to me. So that's the warm word of mouth. And then, of course, once you have all those things going, our vendor is going to start referring to you, especially when you talk to them and you're gregarious and you follow up with them. Absolutely. When they see that you're organized, you have an amazing process, their clients were thrilled, the wedding planner, the photographer, oh my gosh, this couple had an incredible time. They are your hottest referral. And so just to be clear, once you have those 3 qualities, this is going to happen for you. You're going to have all 3 flowing at the same time. I have a truth bomb here for you, which is you can be the best anyone has ever seen. That is just an absolute fact. I think Bill was saying that when I got knocked off the internet. His mom was like the best they'd ever seen. When you understand this stuff and you have it ready, you will not be fighting the middle of the pack for the $200-300 in a crowded market. You're going to start differentiating and distinguishing yourself very quickly. It's like any business. When you are amazing at it, you are going to rise to the top, and you're going to be able to just be that premium person who they know they can reach out to. So I've got some reviews here from people who've taken the course. I just love these because, believe it or not, these are first timers. I got great reviews. No less than 7 people told me it was the best wedding service they'd ever attended. Can you believe that? My first one. Jim, I love his here. He said, so many people came up to me after the ceremony to thank me. They said it was the best ceremony they'd ever experienced. I couldn't even get a drink without coming up. It was truly remarkable. I loved every minute of it. One more from Tom, because I love how he said it. I got so many comments like, that was so good. The storytelling part, sweet. I laughed, so cried. I felt like a rock star. Okay, so these are, I might not believe it if I didn't get these every Monday, but these are the reactions of people who really have their you know what together when it comes to officiating a wedding. They've done the work, and they just go up there and present this incredible experience. So I want that for you if you are thinking about officiating weddings. And like I say, that risk factor was stopping you. You become those 3 things, those wow factors, and all 3 pipelines are going to start firing for you. Now, I know Bill is going to, perhaps we'll talk more about this special offer. I'm looking forward to questions over the next half hour or whatever. But notarycoach.com/officiant is where you can get either course. The Academy course is just about the ceremony. That's like for first timers who never plan to do it again. So that is for just if you want to learn the ceremony. And my pro course came out of the community saying, Mark, I crushed it. I want to do this now as a side hustle. So I created Pro, and this is perfect for notaries who want that full 7 to 8 hours of video training to get all the pieces in order to really launch their business to the next level. You'll find the links to get either of those courses for $297 on notarycoach.com officiant. But just today only, I will say there's a special bundle that is going to be unplugged tomorrow, because those of you who put in the time for this, I really appreciate it. And you can find this, it's a bundle of both courses for $497. unboringweddingacademy.com/notary coach bundle. I think we want to pop that in the chat so you can click on it. That is where you can just grab both courses at the same time for $497, which is just a stupid cheap deal. But I want to do that for you because I just love the notary community. And again, as a thank you to Bill for having me on here. Okay, Bill, I will hand the mic back to you and see, where do you want to take this next?
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you so much for the special offer. I know that is already, even the individual courses, guys, being discounted to $297 is pretty incredible. Consider the regular retail price, but to bundle both of them together for less than $500 is pretty crazy. So that will be available only for today. Of course, I typed the link in there, and I will send that out via email too, so you have it when you're ready. But Mark, we have got some great questions that people have been putting into the chat. So if it's all right with you, I'd like to just start asking those questions, and then maybe we'll see how far we get here. All right, great. Well, I'm just going to work my way backwards since you were just talking about this. Chris asked a great question. He says, so do you, when you're at these client meetings or the initial meeting, do you leave with the deposit in hand, or do you send them to a website to get paid?
Yeah. That's only ever happened once, where the couple was like, I really want to give you cash. And it was really weird. So again, I would say, I know in the States you have Venmo. We don't have that here. We can do Interact money transfer. I really like, again, to get them to sign a contract. So I have a web page that I send them to personally. So what that is a place that accepts payments through the website. It's a plugin on my unboringwedding.com site. And of course, they have to read the contract and check the little box to assent to it. So I would say it's really important when you accept payment to also get them to sign off on a contract. So people who just do money transfer, that works. I don't know how you accept money as a notary, so you must be set up for that somehow. But you want them to somehow DocuSign, or like I say, you need to make sure that they sign a contract. You don't want to get into business with a couple. I've just seen stuff hit the fan in other wedding officiant groups where there was no contract or things weren't clear. So I don't typically accept cash on the spot. I say we will send you a link where you can fill out your credit card, pay with your credit card, and that is also where the contract is laid out, and they click the box and click submit. There's probably lots of other options for that. You can create a Stripe invoice or that kind of thing. But yeah, the short answer is I don't take cash right there at the table.
Excellent. And Don has kind of a follow-up to this too about your course material. Do you have a contract template that's included in your Unboring Wedding Academy?
Yeah, Inside Pro, that's one of the things that's in there. It's just the full contract. Of course, you might want to modify a bit to suit you or have a lawyer look at it, but that is in there. That's one of the crucial pieces of, like I say, I'm not going to send you out into the world to officiate a wedding as a pro without your contract in place.
Awesome. And then B. Charmaine Lees has a couple of great questions. The first one is, Mark, what about group weddings? Have you ever done that? And what are your thoughts on them?
So, do you mean like a pop-up wedding chapel? I don't know if you
Like on Valentine's Day and
yeah,
those
yeah.
types of things.
I've never done that because I've been working really hard at that premium branding. That is not to, again, that's not to reduce anybody who does do that, but I know it's a big day. I've had friends who do it and they stand up there and you're essentially delivering the same thing over and over and over. You're literally taking anybody who walks up, right? So, of course, that is a very different experience. I would call that elopement. Remember I said signing, elopement, Lux ceremony? That is more of like a serial elopement where it's just a couple of their loved ones standing there, you say the thing, you marry them, and off you go. So again, you can only charge a certain amount for that. I've never done that. I have always tried to stay away from elopements. I'm just going to be honest with you here, just you and me and the 160 other people that are here. Like the reason why I love doing weddings is to tell the story. It is getting everybody to laugh. I'm a performer. I love the stage. I'm just going to be honest about that. And I know plenty of people who say I don't like Lux weddings. I love the elopements, the intimate experience. I don't like that. So it's part of it is getting to know what you like doing. The pop-up chapel for me sounds like the worst day at work. Sure, there'll be lots of joy, but so much work just putting couples through this kind of conveyor belt. It's just not for me. But I do know a lot of officiants who it is right for, and they absolutely love it. And it's great for promotional and that kind of thing. So if it's right for you, by all means, do it, set it up, work with a photographer and a venue. It can be a really great thing.
Awesome. On that note on the story, Jennifer asks, do you think that you can be successful at this if you're not a naturally good storyteller?
Absolutely. So that is part of my courses. I teach the formula, and no insult to you, but it's almost like for dummies in the sense of there are plenty of first-time family members who grab my course and they're like, I don't public speak. Do I need to take a public speaking course? Or I don't know how to do this, and they're panicked, and that's why they buy the course. But I'm teaching you a step-by-step process to guarantee the outcome. And like I said, remember, think of yourself more as an author doing a great story read, like a book reading. And so you don't even need to be a gregarious public speaker. You don't need to join Toastmasters for 6 months to do this. When you write the story, you are expected to stand there and read it. And so don't be intimidated or sell yourself short because of that. I teach a process of like, okay, what I teach in the course is you look at the answers you get. Here's how to start breaking them down. Here's the best. Take marry your A's answers, marry your B's answers, weave them through, look for contrast. I literally break it down into granular pieces to guarantee that you get that result. And so, like I said, first timers who come to me and they're panicked and they feel like you. They feel like I'm not good in front of people. I don't know how to write a story. By the end of it, I always know how the story ends. They reach out to me on Monday and go the same kind of reviews. People were blown away.
Great. I have a couple of more business style questions.
Great.
A few people had great questions about additional insurance or the type of insurance that you need to have as a wedding officiant. What do you say to that?
I don't have much to say about that. I really do think it's a matter of like I I don't have insurance. I just know we're not as litigious. I've talked to venue owners and stuff. Maybe it's a Canadian thing. I'm typically covered by any wedding venues insurance, but I know a lot of people in the unboring wedding community who are Americans say like you would be crazy to officiate any wedding without insurance. So I really don't have a good answer for that. Again, because Canada and the States are so different. I do know that if you join an association like IAPWO, the International Association of Professional Wedding Officiants, I'm a member of that group. Unfortunately, they only offer great packages to Americans. But if you join that group and you're a member for $99 a year, they give you discounts on certain insurance. They would be able to provide an answer like that. But honestly, I would reach out to whoever provides you insurance already and say, what do I need? Because basically, what you need to do is cover like I think it's like if you bump the arbor on somebody and it falls on the wedding party, and you were perhaps guilty of that, your insurance needs to cover it. That's the kind of insurance you need. Some sort of like liability insurance, I think.
Great, thank you.
Sorry, I can't do any better than that.
No, I think that's great advice. Especially, I saw some tax questions, guys. When it comes to tax, I'm gonna refer you to your tax professional for that kind of advice, as
Mm.
well as the insurance type
Some people
questions.
say, should I start an LLC? And I say yes, like sure. I know in Canada, I didn't have to declare anything till I crossed $30,000. Then the government says, hey, you're making too much money. So it is different everywhere. And so that's why it's hard to answer those questions. But an accountant, which I just kind of grew up 2 years ago and got one, changed my life. So get an accountant because man, the advice they share is incredible, and they can look at your particular situation and provide really sliver precise advice.
Excellent. And then Cheryl asks, if you agree to a fee and then the couple adds some things afterwards, do you have a fee sheet for this, or how do you handle it?
That's called like a la carte, right? Where people are adding, you say, okay, my basic service starts here, but if you add a this, it's $59. And if you add a that, it's $100. And if you add this, I have never done that because again, personally, I just want to say it's all in. I'm providing you an incredible experience. That's why I say if you have a luxe fee, including rehearsals. I just did a podcast with the Big Wedding Planning Podcast, and it was all about like a rehearsal is so essential. And I go off on it in that podcast. But like a lot of officiants say, oh, if you want a rehearsal, it's $149 extra. Well, essentially, you're discouraging the rehearsal. So I didn't want to discourage anything. I think if you add prices, the couple's going to start thinking, do we need that? Do we need that? Do we need that? Think about your time. You have that meeting with them anyway. They add some ritual. You're going to just go Google that, put it in the script, say, great, do you like the language? You're going to do it anyway. A ceremony is going to be 25 minutes, 35 minutes at the most. So to me, there's no real reason to nickel or dime or worry about that stuff. I have only ever charged one all in fee. So that is one option. And the other option, to your question's point, is the a la carte option. But to me, if it's right for you, do it. I don't like couples um, deciding, is it worth this? Should we do that? I just want them to know I'm here for their full blown ceremony and the outcome is going to be amazing. Here's the fee for that.
Love it. Janae asked a great question too. So she's heard some officiants tell me about some crazy or strange wedding requests, like themed weddings. How do you handle those type of requests if you are not comfortable with it?
Oh yeah, I don't know that I'd be comfortable with it too, to be honest. But a lot of officiants love it, like the Star Wars weddings, and I see in some groups like that I'm a part of, just generic wedding officiant groups. Like, I got a Star Wars wedding coming up. What are some things I can say? I think again, thankfully, my branding because I say I tell your story. Sometimes I don't mean to be harsh, but I think this is, I mean, you get some real genuine nerds who are like, that's the kind of ceremony they want. But sometimes I think it's just to spice up a wedding ceremony because everyone expects it to be so freaking dull. But again, when you're telling the story, that's not going to happen. So I think because I've always led with, I tell your story, it's going to be amazing. couples who find me aren't going to ask me to dress up as Captain Kirk because it just won't go with what I'm going to do. So I don't know if there was I guess the question was, how do you handle that? Some business advice I can give you is your branding handles that. And so couples self-select when they hit your website or read your copy. And I think a lot, for some reason, I've never been asked for a themed wedding. I don't know why. I've never had to turn it down. That said, some officiants are like, I love it. It's the best. I have a Chewbacca costume and I love putting that thing on. Great. Then lead with that. Say, I do all kinds of weddings. I do themed weddings. Put that right on your homepage copy and make sure you're the person for that person. That was part of the wow factor, is whatever problem you're solving. If they come to me, they're like, I don't think Mark's going to be comfortable dressing up as a street fighter, but I would love to refer to a colleague who does that, right? And I'd love for that colleague to be found.
Love it. Okay, so there was a couple of questions about this. How do you feel about meeting your couples on Zoom as opposed to in person?
COVID, I think, increased our tolerance strangely with video a lot more. And so I have been doing that. For example, my price point, if you go to my website, it's based on geography. So my price is $1,000 for a wedding that's within 20 minutes away. Then I increase it for St. John, Fredericton. New Brunswick's not a huge province. It's like 4 hours from one end to the other, but I do charge for distance. So if a couple in Moncton, I do put it out there. I say, I'd like to meet you. I meet you locally at my X coffee shop, or because you're in Moncton, we can do Zoom. And sometimes they say, no, we're good. We love coming down to Charlotte County. It's gorgeous. We'll do that this Saturday. And other times they'll be like, yeah, Zoom is best. And sometimes they're out of country. So I would say you're going to generally get the same effect. Video can always be a bit more awkward because they're just on their phone and it's leaned up against their a stack of books on their coffee table and there's a cat walking back and forth every few minutes. It can be distracting. I think sometimes, unless you're super comfortable with your pitch, it can throw you off sometimes, the stuff going on in their house. So in person is best, but don't say, oh, you're not going to meet me in person, I'm not going to do your wedding. I would say that's a good plan B. It's just something to think about, that how it can be a bit weird getting it going, meeting somebody for the first time on Zoom.
Thank you. And then when you're working with these Lux ceremonies and the couples have wedding planners, Queen Smile says, does the wedding planner normally attend those initial meetings, or what's the interaction like?
Oh, I love that question because working with planners is really key. Typically, the planner doesn't come to any of those meetings or anything. The planner is often very happy to know that their couple is with an officiant who totally has all that handled. And this is where I said vendors are the hottest lead, because if they love you, they will push you on their clients because they know it's less work for them dealing with a gong show officiant, right? So that's why they typically hands off. Sometimes they'll reach out to you ahead of time and say something like, here's the timeline. I just want to confirm you're going to be there at the rehearsal. A lot of time the planner will be at the rehearsal. So you'll want to be clear with them that you are running the rehearsal. I teach in Unboring Wedding Academy how to run a great rehearsal, take point on that. So as a wedding officiant, I consider the ceremony part to be totally my purview. And I think it's important to own that. And the planner supports you in that, and of course oversees the entire rest of the day that is completely outside your control. I always say to the couple, everything that happens in the half hour before, when you're on site and the checks and stuff, and of course your ceremony, that's me. That 1 hour typically is on me. So in the planning session, I'm asking them, what's your music is playing, and where are you when we're waiting? Are you arriving on site and you're in a bridal suite, and is the groom, pressing the flesh and saying hi to people? Where are the groomsmen? You want to talk about what that half hour is like as guests arrive, and then of course you go through the ceremony with them. To me, that's, you own that part. And the planner, of course, is getting everybody on site and making sure all the seats and decoration, that's what they do. You're just in charge of the ceremony piece.
All right, great questions, guys. Thank you so much, Mark.
Yeah.
This was awesome. Just want to pause for just a second to see if there's any last minute questions that might come through on the chat before we wrap this up. I always get so fired up whenever I listen to you speak about this, Mark, because your passion comes through. I can tell you love what you do. It's
Yeah.
very clear that you're good at what you do, and it just makes me want to do this so much. Oh yeah, B. Charlemagne to ask a question too. I don't know what it is.
Sure.
What about using an app like HoneyBook? You have any thoughts on that?
I think so. That's client management, right? And that, I mean, that has its ups and downs. They take a fee. I would say, yeah, I know a lot of officiants are very happy with HoneyBook. I have never used a third party because my process is so fail safe. Like I say, you book them, then you put their wedding day in the calendar. You put another item in the calendar of when you need to reach out to them to book the planning session. So once that calendar item happens, you reach out to them, you make sure that you have your meeting happens, you collect the 2 weeks before 2 weeks before the ceremony, you collect the money. That's when I also reach out to friends and family. So if you have a process where there are literally like traffic cones in the way that you can't drive through, you won't be too worried. A lot of officiants do a spreadsheet method, but I do know that there are a lot of apps out there specifically for service providing industry professionals of whatever industry you are. Again, notary, or it doesn't matter what. HoneyBook is one that comes up a lot, and I think 17 hats or something like that is another big one that I see at like Wedding MBA in Vegas that a lot of people are happy with. So if you feel like a client management software would help you be like less panicked and not keep you up at night about bookings or forgetting things, then I would recommend it.
Yeah, it's hard to put a price on peace of mind, right? So whatever makes it easier, because
Yeah.
it's going to get overwhelming when you have multiple hats. And I love there's another one B. Charmaine put in there, 17 hats, I guess is another one. But we're wearing that many hats sometimes, not just as a wedding officiant, but if you're tying this into your notary biz. And that leads me to another great question here from Hazel about a coach being a coach as well. She says, would this marry well with coaching? I see what you did there, Hazel. She says she's a life coach and a notary as well. Do you see this as a good fit for that coaching?
Yeah, a life coach encapsulates a lot of stuff, right? So I think it could work. Yeah, I mean, in my life, I'm married to a marriage and family therapist, so it's been really hard to be like, hey, you want to do coaching or sort of premarital counseling, because I would just refer to my wife because I know she's 10 times better than I would ever be. A lot of people do a program called Prepare and Enrich, which is kind of a premarital prep course where basically you're not counseling, you're just doing kind of a survey and training them. So if that's something you want to do, a lot of officiants say, I really like the process. I don't want to just marry people, which is all I do, by the way, but they want to be part of kind of the process. So you can actually sell that as a package on your website. You can hang your shingle out as an officiant and say, oh, I also do marriage prep, which that's another offering that you could provide.
That's interesting. Now, I know earlier in the presentation, you talked about building yourself up, following these guidelines and these steps help you command a premium price. You know, maybe it's $1,000, $1,200. When somebody's just starting out on this journey, what do you think is, I don't know the best word for it, a fair fee for a wedding officiant to charge?
So I love that question because I do get a lot of first timers. Getting the photos and the reviews are key. So even if you just do a first one, you want to get those. But if you have zero prospects of a ceremony, you don't know where you're starting out, I would say get yourself listed on Google My Business. Start putting it out there in your notary services that you also do weddings, and find out the average price in your area. What you want to do is charge the average price. Do not come in super low. I listened to the podcast How I Built This with Guy Raz, and it's funny because like when Peloton, when they started, I don't know if you know this story, they started charging like $1,200 for their first bike. People didn't want it because they saw it and said it's probably crap. So literally they just changed the price to over $2,000 and sales started going through the roof. So that's an example to me. I love that story because if you say I'm just starting out, $100, a lot of couples are going to overlook you and say, oh my gosh, you're probably a hot mess. We don't want you anywhere near our wedding day. So find the average price in your market. Do a little research. You'll find lots of wedding officiants with the price out there. Just kind of write them down, come up with an average. I would say $300, $400, $500, even for your first one. Don't undervalue your service because again, you are going to exceed expectations on that first ceremony. You're going to exceed, you're going to do better than any other officiant out there. So if you start at the average price, but you're so well organized and you perform so well that people can't believe what they've seen, then get a few weddings under your belt at that average price over delivering. And that gap is what's going to help you slowly raise your prices and work on becoming a premium brand in your market. So again, average price, don't undersell because couples don't like to see a cheap wedding officiant if it's going to be the kind of wedding where photos and reviews serve you. You can also cut your teeth doing elopements and things like that and signings, but it is those luck ceremonies and the evidence that you've done that is going to cause you to be able to market yourself as a premium officiant.
Beautiful. Great answer to that question. And then also, when it comes to your referral network, do you feel comfortable or do you have a preferred vendor list that you'll refer your couples to?
In terms of like other venues, you mean, or like friends of unboring weddings? Do you mean me referring others?
No, just as a wedding officiant, do you have a list? Like, do you keep a list of people they might need to help with their wedding?
Uh, Typically, when I meet with them in the chemistry check, when you have experience in the industry, remember I told you, hey, what other vendors have you booked? I like asking them that in the chemistry check. I suppose if you're super organized, maybe more organized than I am, you could literally have a friends of. I know a lot of vendors do that. Friends of whatever your name is, and they have a separate web page with links and things like that. You could do that. But in the chemistry check, I just keep it pretty organic. Typically, by the time they find you, they've booked almost everybody else. The officiant, no offense, I'm not offended, is typically the last thing that they go for. Most couples book their date around a venue. Then, of course, they know their photos are going to be forever, so they book in their photographer. But sometimes they're like, "Ooh, we haven't picked out a DJ yet," or "We don't know where he's going to get his suit." So, of course, I love saying, "Oh, DJ Steve, hands down, choose him." Or, "You don't know where you're getting your suit? Oh my gosh, my custom tailor is JAC," something like that. But that to me is like great fodder for the chemistry check as you get to know people. So I do teach in Unboring Wedding Pro the secret to networking with vendors in the air. There's a whole strategy around that we don't really have time for today. But yes, network with other vendors as best you can. And to your point, you tell them, I want to refer you. Even if you've never had a wedding, you say, I'd really like to refer you. So can we have a coffee or a drink, or can I come see your venue?
All right, excellent. I think that's a great question to end on because it's already been an hour and a half, 90 minutes
Wow, thanks
of
for having me.
awesome content. Yeah, Mark, thank you so much for being here. And thank you for everyone who hung in there with us. I can tell there's still over 100 people on the call. I've received wonderful private messages and the chat's been blowing up for you,
Thank
Mark.
you,
So thank
Janae.
you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Great,
Yeah.
great comments.
Thank you guys so much. Remember, if you're watching the replay right now, the special offer for the bundled package expires at midnight on Friday, August 12th, 2022. That's today, and you're probably watching this on YouTube. Still, the other two courses are still and always will be available at a discounted rate for you with our partnership with the Unboring Wedding Academy program. So we have both of those courses available to you at notarycoach.com/officiant. All right. Thank you guys so much. You have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
Mark.
much. All the best to you. I really appreciate it. Have a great weekend.